Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Wear It Wednesdays. If you're looking to take your professional image and style to the next level in a way that's authentic to you, then you're definitely in the right place. Usually, before I start these conversations, I like to do a wellness check in. And if you can hear me clearly, you can tell that I'm a bit under the weather today. If you have any recommendations as to what I can use to get rid of this, I'm not feeling like totally sick. I'm just losing my voice in the process. So if you have any recommendations, I welcome them. And so let me know in the chat if you're here live. Thank you very much for being here. If you're watching a replay, thank you very much for coming back and listening to today's conversation. Let me know in the chat, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And of course, how can I support you along the way? So, with that out the way, if you're new to this space, I'm Salida Roberts, founder of Style to Impact. A couple announcements before I get into today's topic. First of all, I'm going to try and keep this conversation as short, insightful, and impactful as possible so I don't start coughing on camera. So, just a couple announcements, as I said, a reminder that gift cards are available for purchase. You can do so on my website at styletooimpact.com/gift cards. And of course, if you wish to have a actual card mailed to your recipient, then of course you can send me a DM or an email and let me know that you're purchasing a card and you'd like me to create a nice package and send it to that person. So that is it for the announcement. And so as we get into today's conversation, as I shared before, obviously I'm not feeling well. And whenever I'm not feeling well, I tend to, binge watch shows that are touchy feely somewhat. And so I was watching over the weekend, I was watching Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I think, honestly, I can't remember if it was on Netflix or Hulu. I want to say it was on Hulu that I watched it, but Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris, just kind of like giving you a summary as to what that is. It's about this woman who, a widow, and she, did cleaning different homes. And so she stumbled during her process of cleaning a home, she stumbled on this Christian Dior couture dress and absolutely fell in love with it and decided that she wants to own one of these dresses. So, of course, back in the 1950s, what had happened during that time is that fashion was such an exclusive thing. It was something that was geared towards the rich and famous, right? It's how they use clothing during that time to really differentiate and create this class system. It's like, okay, we are better than you, and the way we dress is a depiction of that. And so here is it, this woman who clean homes for a living is dreaming about, having this audacious dream about owning a Dior dress, which cost about £500 at the time, which is like $15,000 right now. And so back then, £500 was a lot, especially for a cleaner. And so she, went about this journey of saving, and then of course going to Paris to buy herself this dress, and buying the dress with cash. And that's not something that you could have done during that time. And so obviously walking into this establishment, trying to buy a dress and not looking the part, then of course, the judgment is like, no, we can't serve you because we only cater to this particular type of woman, and couture gowns are for women who are as I said, during that time was an expression of wealth. And so going on that idea of what clothing was and how exclusive it was to own something as much as a designer gown, it feels as though style can be superficial, right? Because how can you exclude a person from wearing clothes, right? How can you exclude a person from wanting to dress their best? And so for many of you, the idea around style and personal style and buying clothing stems from that, right? That 1950s mindset of style being exclusive. What you wear is about expressing and showcasing, this idea that you're better than someone, when really and truly it's not, right? What you wear is about expressing who you are. It's about showing up as your most authentic self. And so this is why we're having this conversation today, why I wanted to have this conversation today, as to why is it you see style so superficial, and how can you really connect it to your identity, connect it to who you are. So I want to thank you. If you're here live, thank you very much for being here. I appreciate you being here. And you're watching. Oh, you just watched that on a flight. Wasn't it amazing? Like, wasn't it like a really amazing? Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. I definitely um, recommend anyone watching it, because it does give you a sense of, and it's not, the movie wasn't about just about this woman dreaming big, daring to dream to own a gown, but also believing in herself enough and not to shrink to this idea of trying to fit in, right? And so sometimes that's what happens. We try to get into different spaces and show up in different spaces, and we try to shrink ourselves. And so the moral of the story for me from that movie, and just general, as being a personal stylist and image coach, is that style sometimes feels it's the sense of belonging, right? We want to belong and we want to be seen. And sometimes when, especially if you grow up not having monies to buy, clothes, and you're always wearing hand-me-downs or secondhand clothing, or just having a space maybe right now where you're juggling so much, like the last thing that you can think about is investing in your image. It's like, no, that's secondary compared to everything else that you're going through and everything else that you're doing. And so yes, I do understand that obviously you have to weigh your the things that you have on your plate and what you need to do and what needs to take precedent and priority. But at the same time, understanding if you don't show up for yourself, understanding if you don't feel great about yourself, then you're not doing yourself any justice in pursuit of your goals, right? Because you're always in trying to belong, in trying to be seen, you find yourself conforming to fit in. You'll find yourself letting go of yourself, your sense of self, your sense of self-expression, just to fit into this idea of, okay, I just need to show up, land the interview, I just need to show up and get this next client, when really and truly you do need to show up as yourself, because that is ultimately your superpower. And so when you're thinking about, this idea behind style being superficial, as I said, there's the money aspect of it, how we grew up in the environments we grew up in that will say to us, like, money, don't spend money on clothes, you spend money on education, you spend money on personal and professional development, and clothes is not, there's this idea that your image is wrapped around the clothes, when really and truly your image is wrapped around you showing up as yourself. It's wrapped around you being confident. It's wrapped around you looking in the mirror and saying, I see myself, I am worthy of being in every room and every space, right? And it's not this idea that you have to glitter, you have to look sparkly, you have to make an impression, right? Dressing to impress people. I absolutely do not like that saying, because it comes with this negative connotation that dressing to impress means that you're trying to hang, in the Caribbean we say you're trying to hang your hat where your hand can't reach. And so it's this idea that, oh, you're trying to buy expensive clothing, when really and truly you don't even know yourself, right? You don't feel worthy. And so I want to encourage you that before you get to that idea of buying clothes, that you start looking at understanding yourself, understanding how you want to show up and what does that look like. Thank you very much. Yes, it's and when we talk about fashion, and there's a difference, right? And this is different conversation for a different time. There's a difference between fashion and style. Fashion is the Dior gown, right? Fashion is what we see on the runways, what, this depiction of perfection, where a style comes from you. It's an expression of yourself. And that's what we're talking about today. How can you express yourself through the clothes that you wear? How can you connect it really to your identity? And, some of the things that I find, like when I'm working with my clients and the work that I do, like I'm just going to laid out like some of the things that I've experienced is that, women who come to me, they're like, I've gained so much weight, like during, the last couple of years, I've gained weight, I've given birth, I haven't been able to exercise. I haven't been able to, have my physical routine that I'm accustomed to. So I've gained a lot of weight and I don't know who I am. And because I don't know who I am, I don't know how to dress who I am. Like this person that I'm looking at, I'm not familiar with this person. So how do I dress this individual, right? And that is what makes style not superficial, because it goes deeper beyond clothes. It goes to your identity and how you see yourself, right? Another thing that I've heard women say is, I don't like the person looking back at me. Like, can you imagine looking in the mirror and not liking the person looking back at you? That's tough. That's heart-wrenching for me, right? Because if you don't like the person looking back at you, it's difficult to pursue your goals with such courage and compassion and such, vigor that you just, sky's the limit. If you don't like yourself, then you will keep hiding yourself. Right. And so, this idea, the other thing, it's like life, look like to me. What does life look like to me? What do I want my life to look like and stand for? And so there are women that will come to me who are saying, you know what, I'm tired of trying to fit in. I am tired of, everyone else deciding what I should and shouldn't wear and how I show up. And so I want to take back my life and start showing up and make me the center of my life, my choices, the clothing that I wear, and really express who I am through that, and not an idea as to what someone else thinks that I should be. And so when you look at style from that perspective, from this perspective of loving who you are, from the perspective of feeling like you are showing up as yourself and being yourself, then there's nothing superficial about that. There's nothing about how you're feeling right now that's superficial when you look at yourself in the mirror. There's nothing that's superficial when you walk into your closet and you're like, there's nothing in here that represents or fit me. There's nothing superficial about you walking in, trying to get dressed for a social event, whether or not that's personal or professional, and second guessing whether or not you are worthy to be in the space that you're in. There's nothing superficial about that. And so when you're thinking about your style, you really want to, first of all, let's rework that mindset of thinking style is superficial and rework it to mean style is your superpower. It's a tool that you can use to build your confidence. It's a tool that you can use to show up as your best when you're not feeling your best. I mean, I'm not feeling my best today. Ideally, not that I wear them, but you may think like a, hoodie and some leggings may be something that feels comfortable when you're not feeling well. And that's okay if that's something that you're into. But to be my best when I'm not feeling my best, I have to show up as my best. And so having my own formula in terms of what I want my style to look like, getting dressed is easy, even on the days when I don't feel my best. Like today, I've worn this several times already. You would have seen me wearing this several times already. And that's because I have a true understanding as to what my personal style is. So when I'm not feeling my best, I don't have to agonize in terms of what I should be wearing just to look my best. And looking my best has nothing to do with trying to impress anyone. It's so that I can be able to deliver this conversation to you so that we can have this dialogue. right? So that we can have this conversation of showing you why style is so important, why how you show up is so important, and how can you connect it. So how can you connect it to your identity? First of all, understand, who are you? Like, who are you at this moment? I need you to take pen and paper, not what you think anyone else will say about you. Like, who are you in this moment? What are some things that you are going through? What are some things that you want to do in the future? What are some experiences that you want to have? And that simple act, like, we don't do it a lot. I think as women, we are always going, we are always trying to, make sure that we are showing up 110% for every occasion, making sure that everyone sees our value and our worth. But we don't always sit down and take stock of our own value and worth and have a true sense of who we are. And that's the first thing you have to do. You have to have a true sense of who you are. And if there's anything, when you're writing it down, you're not coming from a place of judgment. You're coming from a place of identifying, like, where the areas that you need to improve on, that you should start working on. And it just takes simple steps. It doesn't have to be anything grand. It can be something as simple as deciding that you're going to show up for yourself every single day, and deciding what that looks like when you're showing up for yourself. The second thing is to find your inner beat, find your rhythm, find what moves you, right? Your personal style comes from within, it comes from you. It's part of your movement, it's part of your dance, it's part of, how you express yourself. So if you are someone who is vibrant, like, you have a vibrant personality, you walk into every room and you're like, everyone is like, oh my gosh, can we be friends? Right? You have that personality where you're connecting, you can connect with people easily. But yet, if I were to go into your closet, everything in your closet does not reflect this vibrant personality that you have. You're wearing dull colors. You're wearing, clothing as part of this dress code that was given to us, the black and white, the very gray, blue, stiff corporate look. And that's not connecting to your personality. That's not connecting to who you are. And so you have to, and this is why I say the number one thing is to really get a sense of who you are. Because once you have a sense of who you are, you have an understanding and you start looking at your beat and your flow and what that means for you. How do you want to move? How do you want to feel in your clothes? Helps you to determine what style preferences to add in your closet, whether or not you want to add skirts or whether or not you want to add pants to your closet. Understanding your beat and your movement is where it comes down to understanding what is your style archetype. How do you want to express yourself? What does your style say about you? How do you want to feel? And so once you have that understanding, you start looking for clothes that really matches your vibrancy, that really matches your energy, that really matches how you want to show up in the world. And once you do that, once you identify who you are, really work that down, you find your inner beat, then clothes will never feel disconnected. Then what you wear, your style will never feel disconnected from you. And I can guarantee you that one of the reasons why you feel disconnected to your personal style, why you feel disconnected from who you are and how you show up, is because your inner and outer self is not in alignment. Your clothes feel disconnected, and it's opposite of you. And so today, as I wrap up today's conversation, I want you to think about, is your style in alignment with the person that you know yourself to be? That person who is deciding to choose and to make the choices in your life your own. So I want you to think about that. And as you think about that, you can always come back to this conversation and let me know in the chat, like, What did you come up with? And how do you see your style evolving to represent more of who you are? What does that look like? So thank you very much for being here. If you're here on the live broadcast, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate, always means a lot when I see the chat and I see the comments and I see the engagement. It really does inspire me to keep going. So thank you very much for spending this time with me. Thank you very much for sharing your journey and your stories with me as well. If we're not connected, then definitely hit that connect button and send me a DM if you want, just to say hi, if possible. If that's something that you're open to, then send me a DM to say hi. So thank you very much for joining. I appreciate you being here. Again, if you have any recommendations for this losing my voice thing, I appreciate it. So thanks for joining. I appreciate you being here. Enjoy the rest of your day and your week. Take care. Bye.